From the Opepco Studios in Oklahoma City, you're watching The Press Row. I'm Jenni Carlson here with Barry Tramel. Time for our inbox segment. Your questions from email, our answers here on video. Bear, we're going to talk about OSU basketball. We're going to talk about our buddy Mack Brown, but let's start with coaching. This is the hot topic right now with the carousel turning, and Gene gets us started. Gene says, Mark Mangino, I have thought for a long time Oklahoma's offensive line hasn't been nearly as good since he left. Is there any chance he comes in to replace James Patton? He's been spending a lot of time around the program. No doubt about that, Barry.
Well, I mean, Mangino has been around a long time, around a lot, but I think James Patton's done an excellent job as the O-line coach at Oklahoma. This year, they protected Landry Jones very well, and they got a running game going reasonably well, despite a ton of injuries. I mean, James Patton was patchworking that thing together in the Bedlam game. Gabe Eichert plays guard half the game with Ty Darlington, a true freshman, at center. I think James Patton's done an excellent job. I say no change at the OU O-line coach.
Yeah, that seems to me to be one area that you don't want to mess with. I think James Patton has done a good job. You know, this offensive line, it seems not only this year, but just over the last few, has been snake bit by injuries. I mean, my gosh, before the season starts, they lose two guys that have, a mountain of starts between them. So it's just been unfortunate. I saw the other day on Twitter, Gabe Eichert, after Whitney Hand tore her knee, equated the OU offensive line to the OU women's basketball team. Just injuries befalling both, and I think it's true. And what they did this year, considering the limited resources they had, pretty darn impressive. Hey, Mark Mangino might have a spot on the staff, but I don't think it's coaching the offensive line. Let's go back to the inbox, and this one from Tony. Tony says, I know who we can get to be our new offensive coordinator at Oklahoma State. His name is Bill Young. My reasoning is that he makes the opposition's offense look really good, so maybe he can improve ours. Oh, a dig at Bill Young. Barry, come on.
Well, here's what I said to Tony. That's a very bad attitude. Bill Young's done a solid job. Last year, particularly when you won the Big 12, OSU ended up with the most productive defense in the Big 12 concerning turnovers and, of course, points per game. So this year, not as good. It was disappointing. However, everybody's defense in the Big 12 ended up stinking, with the possible exception of TCU and Kansas State, and not so much Kansas State even. So playing defense is tough in the Big 12. I think OSU's better off sticking with a proven commodity, in Bill Young, find out what was wrong this year, try to correct the problems, get those cornerbacks playing better. But no, switching coordinators is not going to solve the problem.
I know Oklahoma State fans are really eat up with the cushion that the defensive backs have played, and I agree. I don't quite understand why sometimes you have cushions that are bigger than the yardage that the team needs to get a first down. But we've seen that those defensive backs had their issues this year. Even when they were in position, maybe didn't make plays. So, the thinking, obviously, give them a little more space to run up and get an angle and get on a guy. But go back and look at some of the plays that became defining plays for this team, and you'll see defenders in the right spot. They maybe just didn't make the tackle, or they didn't do quite the right thing. So I think Bill Young's system is good, and I think they're going to continue to run it. I don't think Bill Young's going anywhere. So, Oklahoma State fans might be upset about some things, but overall, I think you got to be pretty pleased with what he's done for that defense during his time in Stillwater. All right, back to the inbox. This one from Matt. Matt says, how does Mack Brown miss RG3 and Johnny Manziel? I refuse to call him by that other name, Barry.
Well, I mean, I think it's just a lack of paying attention. The Longhorns have not done well on quarterbacks. Now, everybody in the world wanted Garrett Gilbert, and obviously Gilbert did not turn out to be the kind of quarterback everyone thought. But Texas has just made some whiffs at quarterback. And in a place like Texas, in a state like Texas, which produces nothing but big-time quarterbacks, and it goes back a long ways. Before Mack Brown was at Texas, the Longhorns whiffed on Drew Brees, grew up in Austin, still playing top-level football. So it shows you what can happen if you do miss at that important position. And it also shows you that quarterback development is so important. Look at the Sooners and the Cowboys as great examples. Sooners and Cowboys seem to always have a productive quarterback. At OSU, doesn't even matter what offense, doesn't even matter if it's the third teamer or the first teamer. They get their quarterbacks playing well. That hasn't happened at Texas, and now they're starting over with a new offensive coordinator. Brian Harsin moves on to Arkansas State, so Major Applewhite takes over. He certainly knows how to play quarterback, but Go back to Major, he didn't even get to play quarterback after being Big 12 Offensive Player of the Year. He gets benched for Chris Sims. The Texas quarterback has been an off and on mess. When Vince Young and Colt McCoy were there, Horns in great shape.
Yeah.
Otherwise, mess city.
No doubt about it. And I tell you what, this whole question of missing on Johnny Manziel, I think it brings up another issue about Texas A&M. We see Texas A&M on the rise, and even in the last week to 10 days, we've seen some commitments to the Aggies of some really high-profile players down in the state of Texas. I'm not saying Mac Brown has lost all of his recruiting edge, but A&M's coming for him, and they're definitely making some big-time inroads. I don't think this is just a question of missing on Johnny Manziel or maybe missing on some other players. I think now Texas is going to be battling A&M big time for some of these guys. A&M looking like they're really a player down there in Texas, more so than they have been in the last, say, 4 or 5 years. Back to the inbox one last time, this one from Brad. Brad says, OSU basketball is my favorite. Love OSU football as well. On my way home from Saturday's basketball game, my mom called and said she thinks we should go to the bowl game. We've never been to a bowl game. It's a short distance and tickets are cheap. So what should I do? Go to the Gonzaga basketball game or the bowl game? Oh, a dilemma on New Year's Day, Barry.
I vote football. Here's the deal. In about a week after the Gonzaga game, week, 10 days, 2 weeks, there'll be another big-time basketball game at Gallagher-Iba. You can always go to Gallagher-Iba. You can't always see the Cowboys play football in the Cotton Bowl Stadium. That, to me, is the tipping point. If it was the Shreveport, and you're going to Shreveport for the Independence Bowl, or Houston even, whatever. But the chance to play in that historic stadium, I know it's a rum-dum game. I know it's 11 a.m. on New Year's Day against a bad Purdue team on ESPNU, but you're getting to play in one of the magical stadiums in American sports history. So same with Gallagher-Iba, but you can go next week. Cowboys might never again play in the Cotton Bowl Stadium.
I just worry that the atmosphere is going to be so bad for that game at the Cotton Bowl. I don't know why any Purdue fans would travel. I think Oklahoma State fans, because of the close proximity and because of the things that were mentioned, I think people will go down to the football game. But Boone Pickens bought all those tickets for the Gonzaga game. They're already gone. We are assured of a packed Gallagher-Iba. When was the last time you could say that, Barry? This is an atmosphere that I think a lot of Cowboy fans want to be a part of. I think it's a great question. I might go with basketball. I just think it's going to be a fantastic environment at Gallagher-Iba. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Hey, be sure to stay with the best coverage team anywhere, newsok.com, and every day in the Oklahoman.